The universe has a way of balancing itself, a silent force that watches, waits, and then strikes with precision. Every action sends ripples through existence, and no one, no matter how untouchable they think they are, escapes the weight of their own deeds. They thought they could bury you, sabotage you, and walk away unscathed. They plotted in the dark, convinced their shadows would never come back to haunt them. But life doesn't forget. The thorns they threw in your path, fate made sure they walked barefoot over them first. It's funny, isn't it? How those who were so desperate to see you fall now find themselves slipping. The irony is razor sharp. They spent their energy tearing you down, never realizing they were digging their own graves. They poured gasoline, struck the match and smiled, only to find themselves trapped in the very fire they set. That's the power of being chosen. Your existence alone is enough to disturb them. Your growth is their nightmare. The very idea of you rising haunts them, eats away at them, because deep down they know they can't stop what's coming. See, when you carry something different, something powerful, you become a living reminder of everything they'll never be, and that terrifies them. That's why they come for you, why they scheme, why they push and shove and hope you break. But the joke's on them. Every hit only sharpens you. Every betrayal makes you wiser. Every setback becomes your launch pad. And while they exhaust themselves trying to bring you down, you rise, stronger, smarter, unstoppable. The universe doesn't reward malice. It doesn't let injustice slip through unnoticed. Those who play dirty always end up drowning in their own schemes. And you are the storm they never saw coming. Your success is inevitable, your growth undeniable, your impact unstoppable. They will watch, powerless, as you ascend beyond their reach. If you're ready to step fully into your power, to embrace the journey ahead without fear, then make sure you're part of this movement. Like, subscribe, and stay locked in. Because the best is yet to come, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's next. Number 1. Never underestimate the power of the chosen. It will break those who try. They didn't just come across you by accident. They didn't target you at random. No, your presence pulled them in, like a gravitational force too strong for them to resist. They saw something in you that they could never possess, something that disrupted their carefully constructed illusions. It wasn't your words, your actions, or even your success that disturbed them. It was your existence itself. They didn't hate what you did. They hated what you are. Like moths hypnotized by the glow of a flame, they circled, convinced they could manipulate, extinguish, or outshine your light. But what they failed to realize is that the very force drawing them toward you wasn't leading them to victory. It was leading them to destruction. The moment they decided to fixate on you, to scheme, to sabotage, they signed an invisible contract with fate. A contract that guarantees that every ounce of energy they spend trying to stop you will boomerang back at them tenfold. That's the trap. They thought they were the hunters, but they were prey to something much bigger than themselves. They mistook their obsession for power, their jealousy for justification. They saw your presence as a threat, never realizing that their own reaction to you was the proof of their own weakness. Because here's the truth: power doesn't chase. Power attracts. You didn't have to scheme against them. You didn't have to manipulate. You didn't have to destroy. Your very being was enough to send them spiraling. And this is where the irony cuts deepest. In their desperate attempts to break you, they revealed exactly what they feared most. Every time they whispered your name in secret, every time they conspired, every time they tried to twist reality in their favor, they weren't hurting you. They were branding themselves as weak, desperate, and powerless. They thought they could control the narrative, But the universe doesn't reward those who move through life with bitterness and deceit. It punishes them in ways they never see coming. The moment they set their sights on you, they ensured their own downfall, because those who move with malice will always be consumed by it. They thought they were breaking you, but every attempt only refined you. They believed they could erase you, but all they did was highlight your presence even more. Their attacks, their schemes, their obsession, it all backfired. What was meant to diminish you became the very thing that made you unstoppable. And now, as they stand in the wreckage of their own making, you rise, untouched, unbothered, unbreakable. Because those who spend their lives trying to pull others down never realize they were only digging their own graves. They underestimated you. They overestimated themselves. And now they're left watching as you ascend beyond their reach, haunted by the truth they refuse to accept. They never had the power to stop you. Number 2, don't mistake silence for safety. God's judgment is never late. They think they've won, don't they? They stand there, smug in their illusion of control, laughing in the silence, convinced that they've escaped consequence. Their arrogance blinds them to the truth, that silence is never absence, and delayed justice is never forgotten. It's a trap, one they willingly step into, thinking they're untouchable. But what they don't realize is that every second they believe they are safe, they are simply adding weight to their inevitable downfall. The universe never reacts in haste. It doesn't throw out reckless punishment. No, it waits. It studies. It allows every cruel act, every betrayal, every injustice to pile up like bricks in a wall, until that wall collapses, burying the ones who built it. Those who believe they can move against the chosen without consequence are playing a losing game. The moment they made you their target, their fate was already sealed. They just don't know it yet. This is where they fail to understand how power truly works. Real power doesn't rush. It doesn't act out of emotion. It calculates. It lets the tormentors think they've escaped, lets them celebrate their so-called victories, lets them keep pushing, keep exposing themselves until there's no way out. And when the hammer finally falls, it doesn't just hit them, it erases them. The same lies they used to manipulate others now unravel their own credibility. The same traps they set for you now lock around their own ankles. The same darkness they spread now drowns them completely. And by the time they realize it, it's too late. The fire they lit has already spread, and they are standing inside the blaze. They thought they were controlling the game, but the board has been flipped, the rules rewritten, and now they are the ones scrambling for an escape that doesn't exist. Justice doesn't just punish, it exposes, humiliates, and makes an example of those who thought they were beyond its reach. For the chosen, this weight can feel agonizing. Watching the wicked prosper, seeing the deceitful thrive, enduring the pain of knowing they believe they've won, it's enough to test even the strongest. But that patience is not in vain. The longer they go unchecked, the harder they fall. And when the reckoning arrives, it doesn't just balance the scales, it shatters them completely. So stand firm, chosen ones. They may laugh now, but fate is writing a story they can't see. And when their chapter ends, it will be with nothing but silence, ashes, and regret. Number 3, playing with fire. Beware, the flames you ignite will consume you. They thought they were in control. They struck the match with a smile, believing they had the power to dictate who burns and who survives. They wanted to watch you collapse, to see your light flicker and fade under the weight of their hatred. But what they failed to realize is that fire is a force without loyalty. It doesn't take orders. It doesn't choose sides. It simply consumes. And now, the inferno they created isn't yours to endure, it's theirs to survive. This is the tragedy of those who live in malice. They believe destruction is a weapon they can wield freely, never once considering that they might be standing too close to the flames. They fed the fire with their envy, their arrogance, their desperation to erase you. But all they did was give it more fuel, more oxygen, more power. And now, the blaze they built has turned against them. They thought harming you was a show of strength, that if they chipped away at your foundation long enough, you would collapse, reduced to nothing but ashes and silence. But real power has never belonged to the destroyers. It belongs to those who endure. Every attack they launched at you only proved their own weakness. It revealed the desperation beneath their cruelty, the insecurity behind their aggression, because only the powerless fear the strong. Only the broken try to break others. They were so focused on dismantling you that they didn't notice the embers creeping closer to their own feet. So blinded by their own hate, they didn't realize they were fueling a force they could never hope to contain. And now, the fire that was meant to silence you is roaring louder than ever. Only now, it's consuming them. They cannot escape this. There is no way out. This isn't poetic justice. This isn't some abstract concept of karma. It's a law of reality. You cannot build destruction and walk away untouched. You cannot bathe in fire and expect not to burn. The ones who sought to reduce you to nothing will now be forced to watch as everything they built collapses in the flames of their own making. And you remain untouched, unshaken. The fire that was meant to erase you has only refined you. While they stand in the wreckage of their own downfall, you rise stronger than ever, proving once again that nothing they do can stop what was always meant to be. Number 4. Thinking you've broken the chosen, watch them rise stronger than ever. They thought they had won. They saw your suffering, your silence, your moments of exhaustion, and they mistook it for defeat. They convinced themselves that their cruelty had worked, that they had crushed your spirit, that the weight of their attacks had finally shattered you. But what they didn't realize is that pain does not destroy the chosen. It transforms them. Every blow they struck, every betrayal they orchestrated, every obstacle they threw in your way, none of it had the effect they intended. They believed they were breaking you, but in reality, they were forging you. Every moment of suffering was not an ending, but a rebirth. Every wound became a battle scar, a mark of survival, a symbol of endurance. They wanted to silence you, but instead, they gave you something far more powerful, a reason to rise. The greatest mistake of those who attack the chosen is that they assume resilience has a limit. They think that if they push hard enough, if they strike deep enough, they can finally break what was never meant to be broken. But resilience is not just about enduring pain, it's about becoming more because of it. You didn't just survive, you evolved. You became sharper, stronger, more aware. While they were busy trying to tear you down, you were rebuilding yourself into something unshakable. This is the irony they never saw coming. Every attempt to silence you only made your voice louder. Every betrayal they thought would leave you broken only sharpened your instincts. Every plan they made to see you fall became the very thing that lifted you higher. They wanted you to disappear, but instead, they made sure you would never be ignored again. And now, they watch in disbelief. They see you standing where they expected you to fall. They hear your voice when they thought they had muted you forever. They feel the presence of your strength when they were certain they had erased it. This is their punishment, not just losing, but having to witness the power they tried so hard to destroy. You were never meant to be a victim. You were never meant to fade away. You are the fire that refuses to die, the force that grows stronger under pressure. They underestimated you, and now they will have to live with the reality that their greatest failure was believing they could ever break you. Number 5. When heaven is silent, it's not abandonment. It's a setup for justice. There are moments in life when the silence is deafening, when you cry out for justice, for intervention, for anything to confirm that the universe hasn't turned its back on you. And all you get is stillness. No sign, no answer, just an unshakable quiet. It feels like abandonment. It feels like betrayal. But what you don't realize in that moment is that silence isn't absence. It's a countdown. This is the greatest mistake of your enemies. They believe the quiet means they've won. They assume that because no immediate retribution has fallen upon them, they are free to continue their cruelty unchecked. They think they've escaped the consequences of their actions. But silence is never safety. It is the stillness before the storm. And when the storm comes, it does not whisper, it destroys. The universe doesn't rush. It isn't impulsive. It doesn't act in anger or haste. It waits. It watches. It allows people to show their true nature. And that's the real reason for the pause. It's not to spare them. It's to expose them. Every lie they tell, every act of malice they commit, every opportunity they have to choose kindness, but instead embrace destruction. It all builds up like evidence in an invisible trial. They think they are getting away with it, but what they're really doing is sealing their fate. The silence isn't neglect. It's the rope they are using to hang themselves. For the chosen ones, this waiting period can feel unbearable. You want action. You want balance to be restored. You want proof that justice isn't just an empty word. But here's the truth. Justice isn't loud. It isn't rushed. It's patient, deliberate, and when it arrives, it leaves no room for doubt. And so the silence stretches on, separating the innocent from the guilty, the strong from the weak. It's a test, not for your enemies, but for you. Will you break? Will you lose faith? Or will you recognize that this is not the end of your story, but the sharpening of your spirit? Because when the silence finally ends, it does so with a reckoning so undeniable that even those who laughed at your suffering will tremble. They believed you were forgotten. They believed they were untouchable. But they failed to understand that silence isn't weakness. It's preparation. And when the universe finally speaks, it will not be with a whisper. It will be with a roar that no one can ignore. Number 6. Break the chains or be bound forever. Suffering is the price of liberation. You were never just fighting for yourself. The weight you carry, the struggles you endure, the obstacles that feel larger than life, they did not start with you. You are living through a battle that began generations ago, a war written into your bloodline before you even took your first breath. But here's what makes you different. You were never meant to be another victim of this cycle. You were chosen to end it. The suffering you face is not random. It is not a punishment. It is a reckoning. The ghosts of your lineage whisper through every hardship, every betrayal, every moment of doubt. You are not just fighting your own demons. You are confronting the ones that tormented those before you. You are here to break the patterns that crushed the weak, to shatter the chains that bound your ancestors, to dismantle the weight that was never meant to be carried into the future. This is why your journey is so relentless. This is why the battles come one after another, why your pain runs deeper than most. You are not just enduring suffering, you are transforming it. Every hardship you survive is another crack in the foundation of what was meant to hold you down. Every time you rise after being knocked down, you dismantle another piece of the oppression that was handed to you. And those who seek to harm you, they think they are breaking you, but they are only helping you break free. They don't realize the magnitude of their actions. They believe they are causing you harm, but in reality, they are pushing you deeper into your purpose. The more they try to suppress you, the more they force you to evolve, to confront what must be destroyed. And that is their greatest mistake, because every attack only accelerates your transformation. This is where history changes. This is where the suffering ends. You are not just surviving, you are rewriting the story. You are ensuring that the burdens that plagued those before you never reach those who come after. The torment meant to silence you has only given birth to something unstoppable. You were never just another link in the chain. You are the breaker of it. And for that, your enemies will watch in horror as everything they tried to use against you becomes the very reason you rise beyond their reach. Number 7. If you set a fire to destroy, be ready to burn in it yourself. They thought the flames would consume you. They believed their cruelty, their betrayal, their relentless attacks would reduce you to nothing but ashes. They set fire to your path, convinced that you would be too weak to walk through it. But what they failed to realize is this: you are not like the others. Fire does not destroy the chosen, it refines them. Every insult, every setback, every attempt to break your spirit was nothing more than heat against steel, forging you into something sharper, stronger, unbreakable. They didn't weaken you, they removed your doubts. They didn't silence you, they made your voice louder. They didn't bury you, they gave you the tools to rise beyond their reach. This is where their plan backfires spectacularly. They thought they were your downfall, but they were nothing more than tools in your transformation. Every act of sabotage, every knife in your back, every whisper meant to poison your path only strengthened your resilience. They weren't breaking you, they were building you. They moved against you with arrogance, believing they had power over your fate. But power has never belonged to the destroyers. It belongs to the ones who endure. And now, as the fire settles, as the smoke clears, it is you who remains. Not broken, not burned, but standing stronger than ever, while they are left staring at the ruins of their own making. This is the truth they never saw coming. Their hatred didn't kill your fire, it fed it. They threw fuel onto what they thought was a dying ember, but all they did was ignite a force beyond their control. And now, they are the ones watching in disbelief as you rise from what was meant to be your end. They will learn too late that they were never the architects of your downfall. They were merely footnotes in your story, reminders of what happens when you try to destroy something that was always meant to rise. You were never the victim of their flames. You are the force that walks through the fire untouched. And when the fire has done its work, it is not you who will be left in ashes. It is them. Number 8. Spiritual laws never forget what you do to the chosen echoes beyond time. They thought their actions were small, confined to the present, forgotten with time. They believed their cruelty was nothing more than a moment, an isolated act with no consequence beyond what they could see. But the universe doesn't work that way. Harming the chosen is not just a mistake. It is a disturbance in the very fabric of existence, a disruption that demands correction. What they did didn't end when they walked away. It sent ripples across time, across space, setting off a chain reaction that they cannot control, one that will come crashing back onto them with a force far greater than they ever anticipated. The ignorant always believe that power exists only in the physical world, that justice is a human construct, that they can move through life inflicting pain and face no repercussions. But justice is not just an idea. It is an unseen force woven into the core of existence. Every act of deception, every betrayal, every moment of cruelty echoes far beyond what the eye can see. They have stirred something ancient, something vast, something that doesn't forget. This isn't about simple karma. This is about balance, a law older than time itself. And when that balance is disrupted, it doesn't remain that way. It demands to be restored. What they fail to realize is that by harming you, they have not just wronged a single person, they have thrown themselves against the current of something they cannot outrun. Their actions have set something in motion, a force that does not adhere to human timelines, to human rules. Their arrogance blinded them to the reality that justice does not always come immediately, but when it does, it arrives in a way that leaves no room for escape. And for you, chosen ones, your suffering was never in vain. The trials you endured were not just moments of pain. They were markers placed in the great cosmic ledger, proof of injustice that the universe will respond to. The weight of what was done to you does not vanish. It is accounted for, and when the scales tip back into balance, it is never with a whisper. It is with a force that shakes those who once believed they were untouchable. The reckoning is never just about restoring what was lost. It is about leaving a lesson so deeply embedded into the very fabric of reality that no one forgets it. The ones who moved against you thought their actions were invisible, that their malice would dissolve into nothing. But the universe was always watching. And when it moves, it will not just correct the balance, it will rewrite the fate of those who believe they could disrupt it without consequence. Number 9. Envy is a trap. The more you feed it, the faster it devours you. They watched you with eyes that burned, not with admiration, not with respect, but with something darker, something more poisonous. It wasn't just your success that unsettled them, not just your strength that made them restless. It was your existence, the way you moved, the way you carried yourself, the unshakable force that lived inside you. They saw something in you they could never replicate, something beyond their reach, and that realization gnawed at them like an insatiable hunger. Envy is not a rational emotion. It does not ask, how can I achieve the same? It does not seek to understand, to grow, to evolve. It only seeks to destroy. And that is exactly what your enemies attempted. They did not want to elevate themselves. They wanted to pull you down. Because every time you walked into a room, every time you proved that you were unbreakable, they were reminded of their own inadequacies. And instead of confronting their own shortcomings, they chose the easier path, elimination. But here's what they failed to grasp. Envy is a fire that consumes not its target, but its creator. They thought that by chipping away at you, they could dim your light. They thought that if they whispered enough lies, betrayed you enough times, pushed you hard enough, they could erase what made you different. But envy is a self-inflicted wound. It eats from the inside out. And the more they fed it, the faster it devoured them. They mistook destruction for power. They assumed that if they could make you suffer, they would somehow fill the void within themselves. But that void is insatiable. It never gets full. Because envy is never satisfied with just harming its target. It keeps going until it has nothing left to consume. And so, while they obsessed over your downfall, they unknowingly signed their own demise. And you remained untouchable. They spent their energy trying to erase you, only to erase themselves in the process. They thought they had control, but they were merely prisoners of their own hatred. And now, as you continue to rise, untouched by their venom, they are left with nothing but the wreckage of their own making. This is the ultimate irony. The ones who sought to destroy you were only destroying themselves all along. And now, their envy has left them hollow, while you remain standing, shining, unshaken. Number 10. Power flips overnight. The oppressor today becomes the forgotten tomorrow. They thought they were untouchable. They moved with arrogance, believing they had complete control, believing that their power was permanent. They built their thrones on the suffering of others, convinced that their reign would last forever. But time is patient, time is ruthless, and time always flips the script. The oppressed do not remain at the bottom. The chosen do not stay buried. The tormentors believe they are in control, but what they fail to see is that every action, every betrayal, every ounce of pain they inflict is simply writing the terms of their own downfall. What they thought was their advantage was always their undoing. This is the cruelest irony. The fire they set to destroy you is the very thing that lifts you higher, while those same flames reduce them to nothing but ashes. They pushed, they schemed, they plotted, but in doing so, they placed themselves on a path they cannot escape. They thought they were the ones controlling fate, but they were only walking straight into their own destruction. The chosen are different. Suffering does not break them, it refines them. Betrayal does not silence them, it sharpens them. Every time they are tested, they become stronger. Every hardship is another step toward something greater. The tormentors believed they were the architects of the chosen's downfall, but they were only fueling their transformation. And then the shift happens. The roles change. Suddenly, the ones who held all the power find themselves scrambling, their grip slipping, their influence crumbling. The same people they once oppressed rise higher, becoming stronger, while they sink under the weight of their own arrogance. They will realize too late that the power they thought they held was never truly theirs. It was borrowed, temporary, an illusion that only existed because time had not yet decided to correct the balance. But now, the reckoning is here. Now, they must face what they never thought possible, being powerless. The chosen do not just survive. They ascend. They rise above the ruins left behind by those who sought to control them. And as they take their rightful place, those who once ruled through deceit and destruction fade into distant memories. Names that history will not honor, shadows swallowed by the very darkness they created. This is not just poetic justice. This is inevitable. The balance is always restored. The tormentors always fall. And the chosen? They rise like kings from the ashes. Number 11. Don't be fooled by delayed justice. The longer it waits, the harder it hits. They think they're getting away with it. Every lie they tell, every betrayal they commit, every act of cruelty they unleash, they do it with a smirk, believing no one is coming to stop them. They confuse silence with weakness, patience with indifference. But what they don't realize is that time is not ignoring them. It is watching, calculating, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Justice is never rushed. It doesn't act in rage or impulse. It waits. And that is what terrifies the tormentors the most, because the longer they are allowed to move unchecked, the more they expose themselves. The deeper they dig their own grave. Every action, every choice, every deception becomes another piece of evidence against them, a case building in the invisible courtroom of fate. And by the time judgment arrives, there is nothing left for them to argue. No escape, no defense, no plea for mercy, just the crushing weight of consequences they never saw coming. The universe doesn't just punish, it reveals. It doesn't just take revenge, it teaches. And that is why it doesn't rush. Because when the reckoning finally arrives, it won't be in secret. It won't be hidden. It will be public, undeniable, inescapable. It won't just correct the scales. It will leave a lasting mark, a warning for all who watched so that no one dares repeat the same mistakes. This is the mistake of the wicked. They believe their power is permanent. They think they can move through life unchecked, manipulating, deceiving, destroying, without consequence. But they fail to see that their time is borrowed. Their victories are illusions. Their rise is nothing more than a slow march toward their inevitable collapse. And when that collapse comes, it will be so complete, so devastating, that their name will be remembered only as a cautionary tale. And for you, chosen ones, the wait may feel endless. You may wonder when justice will come, when the balance will be restored. But remember this: justice delayed is not justice denied. It is justice perfected. It is precision. It is strategy. And when the moment arrives, it will be so absolute that even those who once laughed at your suffering will tremble at the force of what they brought upon themselves. They thought patience was weakness. They thought silence meant they had won. But what they didn't know is that the longer the wait, the greater the fall. And their fall, it won't be a stumble. It will be an erasure. Number 12. The chosen ones are unbreakable. Every attack only fuels their purpose. They have tried everything: lies, betrayal, manipulation, sabotage. They pushed you to the edge, waiting for you to crumble. They wanted to see you give up, to watch you fall apart under the weight of their cruelty. And yet, here you stand, unshaken, unbroken, unstoppable. The tormentors never understood what they were up against. They mistook suffering for weakness, assuming that pain would be enough to erase you. But they never realized that chosen ones are not defined by what they endure. They are defined by what they become through it. Every wound, every setback, every loss only sharpened you. Every betrayal only made your fire burn hotter. They weren't breaking you, they were forging you. That's the paradox they will never grasp. The more they try to destroy you, the stronger you become. They believed they could extinguish what they didn't understand. But purpose is not something that can be stolen. Strength is not something that can be taken. And destiny is not something that can be rewritten by those who were never meant to hold the pen. No force, no attack, no scheme is powerful enough to erase what was always meant to be. They thought they could bury you, but they forgot that you are a seed. They thought they could drown you, but they didn't realize you are the storm. Every attempt to break you was nothing more than another step toward your rise. And now, as they stand in disbelief, watching you rise from the ashes of every battle they waged against you, they are left with a truth they can no longer deny. They were never in control. They were never the ones with power. Their every move, every plan, every attempt to erase you only served one purpose: to strengthen you beyond their reach. This is why the chosen cannot be defeated. Because their purpose is not tied to circumstances. It is not shaken by opposition. It is rooted in something far deeper, something that no enemy can touch. The tormentors thought they were the ones shaping your fate. But in the end, they were nothing more than tools in your transformation. And now, while they are left grappling with their own downfall, you walk forward, untouchable, unstoppable, carrying a fire that can never be extinguished. This is not just resilience, this is inevitability. You were always meant to rise, and nothing they do will ever change that. And so, the truth stands undeniable. No force can break the chosen, no betrayal can erase their destiny, and no enemy can rewrite what was always meant to be. Every attack only fuels their rise. Every setback only strengthens their foundation. The tormentors thought they held the power, but in the end, they were only building the very thing they sought to destroy. This journey is far from over. If you are ready to embrace your strength and uncover more hidden truths, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The fire has only just begun, and the best is yet to come.